So app description copywriting. I've looked on both app stores, and generally app descriptions are pretty boring. They're not very well written. A lot of them are very brief. It's almost like people created the description kind of like an afterthought. It's almost like, well, they've already created the app and put in all their effort in there, and this whole listing is just an afterthought, or they don't really put too much time into it. And I think that's a big mistake, because your app listing is what's really selling the app for people to download. And you really want to invest at least some quality effort into writing your app description, especially for the Android, the Google Play Store. So here's some guidelines for copywriting an app description. And ideally, you can make it stand out from all the other descriptions. The first thing you need to do is you need to identify who you're addressing first, and make sure what you write is highly relevant to that audience. So it needs to be something that really tugs on the heartstrings, or at least lets that specific audience identify with what you're writing. And there's this formula for copywriting called the AIDA formula, and it's AIDA. It's time proven. Many copywriters, many professional copywriters use this formula as a basis of all their writing. And so I want to go through that with you briefly here. This isn't a copywriting course, but I think it's worth mentioning and worth even just basing your app descriptions on this formula, so that at least you get out to a good start and make sure that you've got some kind of strategy when it comes to writing it. So the first letter in the AIDA formula is A, the letter A, and that's for attention. And you want to get the reader's attention. And I'll go more into this in a little bit, so I'm just going to list through them right now. The second letter is I, which is interest. You want to get the reader's interest, get the readers interested in your app. Then there is D, which is for desire, and you want the reader to want to download your app. And lastly, the final A is action. You want to get the reader to actually download your app, which is to take the action to download your app. So remember, just like at the very beginning of this slide, you want to identify your audience first, because once you can identify and understand what your audience desires, what your target market desires, then you can speak to them appropriately when you know what they're wanting. And each step from this AIDA formula doesn't need to be long. I mean, for some of it, it could be like one sentence or like 4 or 5 words even, to maybe one paragraph for each of these. So we can keep it short and sweet, but just you want to follow this formula because it works. So the first letter is the letter A, attention. With so many apps out there, how do you get their attention? Something that works really well is some kind of hook, something that catches their interest, that if they read it or see it, they're drawn to it almost. The app icon, in the App Store especially, the app icon, the title, and the screenshots are part of getting this attention. I mean, generally the first thing people will see is they're browsing a bunch of app icons. And the first thing that will draw their attention is how the app icon looks. And then after that, they're going to look at the title. That's generally the second thing they'll see, and they're going to form some kind of preliminary opinion about your app just from the app icon and the title. And if that's been enough of a hook or enough of getting their attention, they'll likely entertain clicking on your link and at least looking at your screenshots. And so really those 3 things are kind of like the combination of things you really want to focus on in terms of getting someone's attention. Now further to that is your app description. You want the first sentence, or at least the first little bit of your description, to also get their attention. And so that should be really short and even like 1 line, something that will get their attention. So in copywriting, that's usually a catchy, powerful headline. And a headline, when you read the newspaper, if you were to scan any newspaper, just the whole paper, and you were to read all the headlines, there's certain headlines that would appeal to you and other headlines that you just gloss over and move on to the next one without even reading the article. And so you want to sort of ask yourself, well, why was I drawn to a particular headline over another one? And that's sort of the same kind of formula or the same kind of practice that you want to have with creating the first sentence of your app description. So some people will use social proof. They might quote reputable magazine or some kind of article that's been written about their app from some authority, or they may quote from their user reviews, something that's really glowing or really positive. You may want to phrase your first line of your app description as asking a question, something edgy or questioning, a question that maybe your target audience has been asking themselves over and over again. And another strategy is to have a shocking or hard to believe headline, something that's like, what? How could he be saying something like that? And just entice them to read on. And really that's the whole point of getting their attention, is just interesting them enough to continue reading or continue looking at your app and seeing what it's all about. And that's the whole purpose of getting their attention. So the next letter is I, interest. And so you've just got their attention and they've sort of been primed and prepped to continue reading or continue looking at what your app is all about. So what do you do next? You have to create some kind of interest in what you have to offer them. So spend more time now getting them interested in what you have. And so you want to describe what problem your app solves. You don't just want to describe what your app does. And this is a mistake that a lot of apps in the App Store do when I read their descriptions. They're just describing what the app does. And something that's much more powerful than that is to describe the problem that your app solves. And so you need to think and put yourself in the shoes of your target audience and just say, well, what are their problems? What are the things that are really bothering them that my app solves? And really craft your paragraph in terms of describing what it does in the way that it's solving their problem. And I think that's much more powerful when somebody reads it. And it definitely will generate a lot more interest when you're framing it that way. The next letter is desire, or D for desire, and you want to appeal to your audience's personal needs and wants. And so kind of a simple way of appealing to their desire, appealing to their needs and wants is just to create or think about the features and benefits of your app. And so what your app does and how it will benefit them. And oftentimes using bullet points can be a good way to communicate your features and benefits. And you'll see this a lot in many app descriptions or product descriptions or whatever it may be. They're kind of listed out as bullet points because that's short, it's to the point, it kind of draws the eye to, or eyes are drawn to bullet points, and it's something that it's information that can be communicated very quickly just from skimming over bullet points. And just make sure that in your bullet points, you're not just listing the features, but you're also adding in the benefit of what those features are all about. A feature is something that your app does. A benefit is what your app fulfills in their needs. So make sure you list both the features and the benefits for your app. And the last letter is A for action. People really need to be told what to do. So oftentimes if you just end it in your desire, which is just like, let's say you have a bunch of bullet points and you just stop there, statistically you'll have less people downloading your app than if you added one extra line after your bullet points, just telling people what to do. So an example could be something as simple as tell them to download it now, or click the download button, or don't wait, get it now, click on the button, something like that. Just tell them to take action. It's very simple, but a lot of people forget to do this. And you actually, statistically, you get more people taking action when you just tell them what to do. And you may also want to think about telling them to leave a review or contact us. And you may also want to use adjectives like instant or something similar to further entice action. So you want to have those action words that are a part of your app description at the very end. So to summarize, just keep in mind for iOS, it's for human interest only. There's no search ranking benefit to your iOS app description. So really, if you're publishing for iOS and you're writing a description for iOS, you really don't need to spend too much time on it because generally people are looking more at your app icon, your title, and your screenshots more than the description. And like I said, many other things are more important than the description for iOS. But for Google Play, it's for human interest and for App Store keyword ranking. And so that's why you do want to spend time on the Google Play Store or for Android because of that App Store keyword ranking. And you must write a good readable description with optimized keywords. and that's something that Google really emphasizes. And just for the benefit for both human interest and the keyword ranking, it's to your benefit to write a good readable description, and also to optimize for keywords.